Welcome to the Elder Darkness. On this journey, we wander into the green silence of the old forest. A place that breathes, remembers, and sometimes hums quietly to itself. The trees here are not passive. They listen, they lean closer, and they do not always like visitors. You might find yourself somewhere in the story, perhaps as a traveler who took a wrong turn past the Shire's borders, or as someone who hears the faint echo of an ancient song carried on the wind. Before we begin, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into Tolkien's world, and tell us in the comments where in Middle-earth you'd choose to rest tonight. Now, lie back and relax as we travel to the world of Middle-earth. The mists of the old forest. The hobbits enter a strange, whispering wood where trees breathe and shadows remember, and we meet the singing, yellow-booted master who seems untouched by the rules of Middle-earth. The story begins where the wild things still remember their age. Beyond the Shire's hedge lies the old forest, a tangled realm of oak and ash and whispering willow. The hobbits, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, trudge nervously beneath its dark canopy, each step swallowed by moss and mist. It feels alive because it is alive. The trees shift imperceptibly when no one's watching. The paths twist as if they're playing a private joke. Even the air feels old, like it's been exhaled 1,000 times before. Merry, who knows these parts best, warns the others that the forest has a temper. The trees here remember the axes and fires of Buckland, and they have long memories indeed. As the hobbits press deeper, they find themselves drawn toward the heart of the wood, a place of sullen quiet and slow, rhythmic creaking. They cross a dark stream and, exhausted, sit upon the roots of an immense willow. That was their mistake. Old Man Willow, that ancient tyrant of bark and sap, seizes them in his sleep. Frodo is nearly drowned, Merry and Pippin swallowed by its trunk. For a moment, it feels as though the forest has decided to reclaim what was once its own. And then singing, a lilting, carefree voice breaks the suffocating spell. A figure in blue and yellow strides through the trees, his boots splashing in the shallow water, his face broad with laughter. "Hey Dole, Merry Dole, ring a dong dillo," he calls as though the world itself were his audience. He is Tom Bombadil, the master of wood, water, and hill. With a flick of his voice and a song that sounds both nonsense and command, the willow relents. The hobbits, gasping, are free. Tom's arrival is almost comical, almost absurd, like a burst of sunlight in a horror film, but it works. The trees obey him, the shadows withdraw, and the forest's mood lightens. He speaks to the hobbits as if he's known them for years, though none have heard his name before. He's not tall, but there's something unmeasurable about him. His blue coat glimmers with morning dew, his beard catches the golden light, and his eyes seem older than daylight itself. When he invites them to his home, the hobbits follow without hesitation. It's not courage, it's relief. The forest seems to calm in his presence, like a storm momentarily appeased by its own god. On their way, Tom hums to the trees, speaks to the water, and laughs at the wind, as if the whole land is an audience to his endless performance. There's something unsettling about his ease. Frodo watches him closely, trying to grasp who or what this being might be. He doesn't fit into any story the hobbits know. He's not elf, not man, not dwarf. He has no agenda, no fear, and seemingly no limits within his own domain. Yet outside it, he gives no answer. The old forest remains half hostile, but while Tom walks, the gloom parts around him. Middle-earth historians still debate whether the trees are truly sentient or simply imbued with ancient magic. Perhaps they're remnants of Yavanna's first creations, the same willful flora that later became the Ents. Whatever the truth, the old forest serves as a warning. Nature remembers, even when civilization forgets. When they reach Tom's house, it's as if the world changes color. The gloom gives way to golden light reflected off running water. There stands Goldberry, the river daughter, radiant and serene, her presence balancing Tom's boundless energy. "He is," she says simply, "the master of wood, water, and hill. Not the owner, not the ruler, just the master," as if mastery itself means something different in this corner of the world. That night, as they dine and listen to Tom's songs, the hobbits feel an unfamiliar safety. Frodo dares to ask questions. Where Tom came from, how old he is, whether the darkness beyond his borders troubles him. Tom only smiles and replies, "Eldest, that's what I am." Tom remembers the first raindrop and the first acorn, and that's that. His words tumble between jest and truth. If he really is the eldest, then he predates even the Vala's shaping of Middle-earth. Some scholars whisper that he might be the spirit of Arda itself, its unspoiled joy before shadow fell upon it. Others think he's something smaller, yet no less mysterious, the embodiment of Middle-earth's memory, the consciousness of the land before the world's divisions began. Still, Tom never claims divinity. He eats, drinks, laughs, and naps like any mortal, yet nothing seems to touch him. The ring has no power over him, though we'll come to that later. For now, in the soft glow of his firelight, the hobbits feel time loosen around them. Days pass like minutes. The forest's wrath is forgotten, and even Frodo's burden seems lighter. Out in the woods, though, the trees still murmur. Old Man Willow sways restlessly, remembering the strange tune that forced him to sleep. Somewhere deeper still, where even Tom seldom goes, darker roots twist in silence. The old forest keeps its secrets, and Tom, in his bright boots and bright laughter, keeps his own. The riddle of Tom Bombadil. Behind his laughter and nonsense songs lies a being older than elves or Sauron, and Middle-earth historians still debate whether he is spirit, Maya, or something beyond creation itself. Tom Bombadil hums even when the world is quiet. His voice carries through mossy glades, skipping over the roots like a stone across still water. The hobbits, freshly rested and half dreaming from their stay, sit listening to him recount tales so ancient that even Elrond might blink in disbelief. He speaks of the first raindrops before Morgoth's shadow, of the rivers when they were young and wild, of the stars before elves woke beneath them. He remembers everything not as history, but as memory. It's here that the riddle begins. Who is Tom Bombadil? Frodo, ever curious, decides to test the mystery. Quietly, he slips the one ring onto his finger and vanishes. Or rather, he should have vanished. But Tom only laughs, looking right at him. "Hey, come now, my lad," he chuckles. "You're not hiding from Tom, no indeed." Then, without a hint of fear or reverence, he plucks the ring from the air and flips it casually like a coin. When Frodo gasps, Tom slips it on and remains perfectly visible. No shadow touches him, no whisper of Sauron's malice lingers. Then, just as carelessly, he tosses it back. It's one of the strangest, most disarming moments in the Fellowship of the Ring. Power that bends wizards and kings means absolutely nothing here. Tom laughs at it like a toy. The hobbits stare as though watching someone juggle lightning. Middle-earth historians still debate whether this scene is Tolkien's great cosmic joke or a clue to something deeper. Is Tom a god in disguise, or proof that joy can be stronger than corruption? Whatever the truth, it unsettles Frodo. For the first time, he realizes there are powers beyond even the ring, powers that neither seek nor resist dominion. Tom simply is. His home feels like an island outside of time. The fire crackles warmly. The air smells of rain and honey, and Goldberry's laughter seems to echo in the beams. She moves like the river itself, graceful, unpredictable, and endlessly patient. When she speaks, the hobbits feel the calm of deep water. She calls Tom the master, but with affection, not reverence. It's as though the forest, the streams, and even the storms have agreed that here, this man sings their language better than anyone else. Tom's laughter fills the room again as he begins another song. His words don't quite make sense, half nonsense rhyme, half invocation. Yet the air trembles with quiet energy, as if the melody is older than sound. The hobbits don't know it, but the very rhythm of Arda hums beneath his voice. He's not shaping the world with his songs. He's reminding it to be. And this is where the great debates begin. Some scholars argue that Tom Bombadil could be a Maya, a lesser divine spirit like Gandalf or Sauron, who simply refused to choose sides in the cosmic war. Others claim he's the embodiment of Eru Iluvatar's first thought, the untouched part of creation, unmarred by sin or ambition. Yet another theory, beloved among philosophers of Middle-earth, suggests that Tom exists only within the story itself. He is narrative consciousness made flesh, Tolkien's wink to the reader that not every mystery must be solved. Whatever he is, Tom's detachment from the struggle of power fascinates and frustrates in equal measure. Gandalf later admits that Bombadil could not be trusted with the ring, not because he'd misuse it, but because he'd forget it. Imagine that, the greatest weapon of evil, lost between songs and naps in the old forest. A dangerous sort of innocence. And yet, there's something enviable about him. Tom's world is complete. He neither covets nor fears, neither commands nor obeys. When Frodo listens to him laugh, he feels, for a fleeting instant, what freedom from power might feel like. Not victory, not resistance, just unshaken joy. Outside, the old forest sways in the breeze. Somewhere beyond its borders, darker things are stirring. The Nazgul are riding, Sauron's eye has begun to turn westward, and war is slowly waking. But none of that reaches Tom's door. He sings of lilies and rain, while the world's shadows gather elsewhere. A small, curious detail often missed by readers. Tom has many names, whispered across time. The elves knew him as Iarwain Benedar, oldest and fatherless. The dwarves called him Forn, the Ancient One. To men of the north he was Orald. 3 languages, 3 ages, 1 enigma. No lineage, no beginning. That's rare in Middle-earth, where everything usually has a genealogy longer than an Ent's beard. Still, questions linger. If he's so powerful, why doesn't he help in the wars? Why let darkness spread? One theory suggests he can't, that his power is bounded by his domain. Beyond the old forest, he might be no more than a song on the wind. Another idea, far more poetic, claims he chooses not to interfere, because his purpose is to remain pure, to preserve a pocket of innocence in a world doomed to fade. When the hobbits prepare to leave, the forest feels less threatening, though no less alive. Tom walks with them partway, humming as he goes. The trees seem to lean toward him as if listening. When they part ways, he gives Frodo a bit of advice wrapped in song, and the sound of it lingers long after he's gone. The road ahead leads toward Bree, and toward danger, but they carry with them the memory of something bright and inexplicable, a glimpse of a world that resists corruption not by might, but by mirth. There's one more curious tidbit tucked away in the lore. Tolkien once said, half in jest, that Tom Bombadil represented the spirit of the vanishing Oxford countryside, a scholar's private myth-turned-cosmic archetype. If that's true, then Tom is the last patch of untouched earth, content to exist, to sing, to be, even as empires crumble beyond the trees. He is the unmoved observer of Arda's long play, the still point in the turning world. And somewhere in his laughter is a truth too large for even wizards to grasp, that perhaps the only true mastery is to want nothing at all. Goldberry and the boundaries of power. Within the quiet house beside the river, Tom and Goldberry reveal a harmony apart from war and fate, hinting that true mastery may come from indifference to domination, until the ring itself trembles before him. Morning sunlight filters through the leaves outside Tom's window, gilding the room in shades of amber and green. The hobbits stir slowly, still half dreaming of rivers that whisper and trees that sigh. Goldberry moves quietly through the house, humming to herself, her presence as natural as rainfall. She greets them with warmth that feels older than any home, as if the land itself has taken human form just to serve breakfast. There is honey, fresh bread, and laughter, always laughter. Tom bursts in singing, his boots muddy and his face bright with mischief. The rain has left a gift for Goldberry, he declares, holding up a handful of water lilies. It's an ordinary act, yet the world seems to pause for it. The old forest bends around this household, protective, obedient, but not enslaved. Whatever binds Tom and Goldberry to this place, it isn't power in the usual sense. It's harmony. They don't rule the land. They belong to it. When Frodo finally asks, "Who is Goldberry?" she answers simply, "The river daughter." No more, no less. Like Tom, she seems beyond explanation, too elemental for genealogy, too serene for myth. Together they make a pair that feels symbolic, almost alchemical. He, the unshaken earth. She, the ever-flowing water. They live without need for conquest or fear, without shadow or crown. Outside their home, however, the world is already tightening with dread. Beyond the old forest lie the Barrow Downs, ancient tombs haunted by spirits who remember when kingdoms fell. Frodo's path will soon lead there, but for now, he lingers in this fragile calm. It's the last breath before the long storm. Tom walks with the hobbits to the edge of his domain, his boots splashing in shallow streams, his song keeping the air alive. The road turns gray, and the light shifts. "Tom's country ends here," he says cheerfully, "but you'll not be alone if you remember my songs." Then, more quietly, he adds, "The trees will listen." And with that, he vanishes into the forest, just gone. The sound of his voice fades like a tune you half remember from childhood, one you're not sure was real. The hobbits press onward, but none of them forget that feeling of impossible safety, of being watched over by something ancient and content. Middle-earth historians still debate what it means that even the One Ring trembled before him. When Frodo later tells Gandalf of Tom's immunity, the wizard confirms what most fear to say aloud. Tom would not have come when called. It's not defiance, but detachment. If Sauron's shadow covered all lands, Tom might simply remain singing under his trees, untouched and untroubled. To some, that's unsettling. To others, it's the truest kind of peace. There's a quiet lesson buried there. The ring embodies the will to dominate, to bend others, the world, even oneself toward control. Tom's laughter is the perfect opposite. The will to let things be. He neither hoards nor conquers. He exists without needing to define. That, perhaps, is why the ring cannot find purchase in him. He is free because he has no edges for corruption to cling to. Goldberry, too, mirrors this serenity. She accepts every moment as it arrives, storm or sunshine, with the same quiet smile. Some have wondered whether she is the embodiment of nature's compassion, while Tom is its joy. Together, they form a harmony that hints at a deeper truth Tolkien threaded through all of Middle-earth. That power divorced from love decays, but love without the hunger for power endures forever. There's a quirky fringe tidbit in older drafts of Tolkien's notes. Tom Bombadil once appeared in a poem before the Lord of the Rings ever existed. He was already ancient then, already singing nonsense to frogs and river reeds. Tolkien later folded that strange spirit into Middle-earth's mythos, unable or unwilling to leave him out. It's as if Tom refused to be unwritten, insisting on his own reality, a literary echo of his in-world defiance of control. As the hobbits move on toward danger, their memories of Tom feel like a dream that brightens even in recollection. When fear grips Frodo later on Weathertop in Moria or beneath Mount Doom, perhaps a part of that untroubled laughter remains, somewhere deep inside. The old forest's master leaves no armies, no heirs, no monuments, only a song, but sometimes that's enough. Tolkien himself once hinted in one of his letters that Tom Bombadil represents something I feel important, though I cannot analyze it easily. That's the heart of it. Tom is mystery incarnate, the piece of creation that refuses to bow to explanation. The unknowable corner of existence that remains playful, unconcerned, and free. And maybe that's why he matters. In a world obsessed with prophecy, doom, and destiny, Tom reminds us that some things are not meant to be solved. They're meant to be lived with, like the sound of rain on leaves, or the shimmer of sunlight through river water. His story ends without ending, as he sings somewhere in the green distance, long after the hobbits are gone. The camera of the mind pulls back, over the trees, the winding Withawindle, the Barrow Downs, and finally beyond. Somewhere, faintly, you can still hear him. Hey Dole, merry Dole, ring a dong dillo, and then silence. The forest settles again. The mist thickens, soft and silver. You can almost feel the moss under your hands, cool and damp, and the quiet heartbeat of the earth below it. Time loosens its grip. The wars and the shadows, the kings and their crowns, all fade to distant murmurs. Only the sound of the river remains, flowing past Tom's door, whispering his song to the stars. Maybe that's the point of it all. Not every mystery asks for an answer. Some are meant to remind us that peace is possible, that laughter can defy darkness, and that not all masters rule by command. In every era of Middle-earth, when the world grows too loud, Tom Bombadil still sings somewhere in the green. So rest now. Let the echo of his song fill the space between thoughts. Let the wind of the old forest move softly through your dreams. And when you wake, perhaps the morning light will sound a little like laughter.